I'd like to wrap this up by letting you know two last things. One is excellent follow-up, and the last is a certain attitude we have at Church of the Resurrection called whatever it takes. Now, when it comes to excellent follow-up, let me just briefly walk you through the follow-up process at Church of the Resurrection. At Church of the Resurrection, when you visit the church during worship, and I'll tell you how we did this when we were a smaller church, and because it might fit more of your congregations, I'm not sure. But during worship, we make sure we have a point where we invite people to sign in. So right before the anthem, the music, because during the anthem we have 3 minutes where they're going to be seated and we know it can make it down the aisle during that 3 minutes. If you pass the attendance notebook at some other point where people then stand in the middle of the row, it stops there and it doesn't make it to the end of the row. We need it to make it all the way to the end of the row. So just before the anthem, we announce the attendance notebooks. We don't have it on a hook at the end of the aisle. Instead, we hand it to you. An usher hands it to you to make sure it gets started. And so our teams of ushers bring out stacks of these at a certain point in the service. I'll say at this time, our ushers are going to come forward and they're going to be handing you the attendance notebooks. If you would please sign in and let us know that you were here, we'd be most grateful. And as you're signing in, take a look and see who's sitting next to you. And as you're seeing who's sitting next to you, be sure to welcome them by name following the service of worship. Once it gets to the end of the aisle, please pass it back to the beginning of the aisle so the folks on the other side can see who you are. And then on the left-hand side, if you'd like more information about our church, it's there. Please help yourself if you're a visitor. Now, part of what I have done is we have handed you the attendance notebook. We're doing it at a time it makes it all the way down the aisle. We're asking it to come back to the beginning of the aisle, but I've also said to the people sitting next to you, take a look and see who's sitting next to you and welcome them by name following the service of worship. Now, you're there as a visitor and you want to be anonymous. You don't want the church to know who you are. But unfortunately, the authority figure up there just told the person sitting next to me to look and see who I am and welcome me by name. And so now I'm either going to be known as a rule breaker or I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And most people are going to sign in. And so that's important. Once they sign in, then after church on Sundays, when we were smaller, for the first 4 years, I would then tear off. This was up until about 400 people a Sunday in worship. I would tear off their registration form whenever I saw that there was a first-time visitor. And I would go home and I would have lunch with my wife and my children. And then on Sunday afternoon, I would go visit all of our first-time visitors. I didn't call first and tell them I was coming. I just would show up. And I would sometimes take my children, or I might just go by myself. I would knock on the door and, let's see, it's Chip, right? Okay, so I knock on Chip's door, say, and Chip comes to the door and he has this look on his face like, oh, doggone it. I knew I should have never given you my name and address. And so before he can say anything, I say, hey, Chip, don't worry, I don't want to come in. I just wanted to stop by for just a second and let you know how grateful I am that you came and visited the church today. We're really glad you came, and it would be an honor to be your pastor. And I don't know if you have any questions about the church, and most of the time they say, no, I think I'm fine. I say, great, well, we're really glad you came. And this coffee mug is a sign of our welcome. Chip, come on up here if you would. This coffee mug is a sign of our welcome, and I'd like for you to have this. And our hope is that you'll come back and visit our church again. Chip, there you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Chip's got his coffee mug. If he's not there, then I leave it at the garage door because people don't go in their front door anymore, and I leave a personal note inside thanking him for coming. And that visit, how long did that take? Yeah, 60 seconds maybe. Didn't take very long. It took me longer to drive there, of course. But I would visit 2 or 3 of those folks in a weekend. Now, what was really great is by virtue of having stopped by his house and seen him face to face, I would remember him the next time he came. And so when Chip walked in the door on his second visit, Chip, it is so great to see you again, man. Thank you for coming back. If I could call him by name on the second visit, he was going to join the church.